Okay, hey everybody. Gonna go over here and post this live real quick on the page, as always. And we are gonna set this up and do it. So bear with me just a second. Okay. Alright. Here we go. Now, alright. We are gonna be able to knock this bad boy out. Let me adjust here for some light. We can see! Sorry. Hey Tom, how's it going, man? Um, yeah, I just wanted to pay homage to John Byrne's original design for this character. Um, it's a little different, but it'll do the job. I went with the hairless face on the character. I didn't go quite as blocky as they do. Um, I went more with a little modern, stronger jaw, stronger chin type look. And I'm going to put a little bit of the hair down here around the edge, so we see that come in. A little bit of a more rustic look off of the character, so we can see where the hair flows and all that, and get that designed out there pretty quick. But yeah, I don't like the idea of them making him look like them being some select artists. Nobody get offended by it, because I don't mean anything personal towards the artist at all. It's a personal choice, okay? But the big thing is, if you see a character that's been this way since 1978 in the original design, if you see this guy like this and you know he's there, back off just a little, with the skunk ape or swamp ape look. Don't go with the wet, grungy look. Do due diligence to the character, because I'll tell you, the funny thing about it is, whether you believe in cryptozoology or whatever, that's a personal thing, no problem. I'm just saying, people don't believe in dragons either, but yet the pterodactyl existed. So think about that. You don't know that it's not out there, and just because you can't see it doesn't mean you shouldn't have belief or faith in know it's there and knowing it's there, because a lot of animals are right in front of your face and you don't see them on a daily basis. Um, Not to mention the fact, if you're religious, not going there in preference or anything like that, but if you're religious, a lot of that has to do with blind faith. So, um, it's one of those things. So stick with the formula that has been developed for the design of the character, specifically, because what happens is, where people say, well, this is a Yeti or a Bigfoot, and that's fine. And if it is, make it a mountain woodland creature like it's supposed to be, a forest-based creature, where it's going to be cleaner than most people would think. It's going to be a lot drier than most people would think. Don't saturate it like it's out of a grunge band and looks like it came out of a swamp. There's a big difference in that. And a lot of people, draw this particular character like he's come fresh out of the water. It's got this whole wet grunge thing, and he looks like a 800-pound wet rat. Don't do that. Keep it very clean and pristine, because woodland creatures keep their fur clean. They do have a specific, I used to hunt not for sport but for survival skills, and I don't condone hunting for game to mount on your wall. That's just creepy. But I do know the skill set. I grew up in Texas, and that's the thing. They teach you that down there. Um, they do have Animals do have distinct smells, because they don't bathe like we do, and There is a misnomer, though, that they're very, very nasty, and 9 times out of 10, they're not. Bears and bears and deer and stuff like that are very, very clean. So who wouldn't say that these animals within themselves wouldn't be very, very clean? They musk themselves with you know rubbing up against plants and trees and stuff, and they have an outside smell. Yes, they're animals, but who's to say that they wouldn't have, clean fur by the same brushing techniques and things like that? That's why bears scrub up against trees. They keep their clean. They keep themselves clean that way. Um, it's just one of those things. If you're going to do comic books, where does that relate? It relates in the realism of the animal. No matter how far the fantasy goes, you got to base it in some reality so it's believable. I've had people, since I posted this card, I've had a couple of people message me that aren't friends of mine and say, well, that's sacrilege. People like you post about this stuff and they put it out there that, that's against God. And I'm like, what? It's just comic books, man. Well, Sasquatch don't, they're not real. And people like you put them out there and make them real for people and make them real horrors for people. And that goes against God. And I'm like, well, question for you. I haven't seen a real Sasquatch. Have you? Well, no, that proves they don't exist. Oh, really? Well, not to get into the religion thing, but you haven't seen God face to face. So how does that bear difference from that? And I'm a believer, don't get me wrong, but the funny behind it is to provoke people that think like that to open their minds, because they'll say they believe in God, but yet they don't believe in, dragons or creatures they haven't seen. And I'm not saying that, they come out of, Game of Thrones or anything weird like that. I'm just saying that with the dinosaurs as proof of existence, it's really hard to argue the fact that, flying dragons didn't exist. Hello, pterodactyl, among many other of those beasts. And it's just funny. Make sure your comics resemble as close to real life as fantasy allows for. Don't go making them all funky. Like I said, I don't want to get into all the religious thing of this guy, and he knows who he is and whatnot. I'm not going to call him out, but you can't tell me that this stuff doesn't exist in some form or fashion, because it's been seen too many times, and just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So when you draw this stuff, make sure it's environmentally sound, is what I'm saying. Okay? So if this is a Canadian mountain-based creature, why on earth would you make him look like he crawled fresh out of the swamps in Florida and make him grungy and wet and look like a wet rat? I just don't see that as a practical move as an artist. So that's what I'm getting at. But that interaction with that young man was funny to me, because of the fact that he got irate about it, and I told him, I said, man, I love to debate stuff, but I just got to get to work because I've got a card to get out and I've got some pages and stuff to do. So I went on about my business. He kept coming at me saying, well, God is real and Jesus is real and this, that, and the other. And, Jesus actually lived. Well, that's a misnomer. Jesus wasn't God. It was the embodiment of the spirit in flesh. But, just like this guy, just because you haven't seen him doesn't mean he doesn't exist. So why argue that point? Especially with the religion versus science, which I believe they're hand in hand, and that's ridiculous to do that. But, and like I said, this isn't a church lesson or anything weird like that. I'm just saying, this guy kept referencing things like that, and every time he did, I kept shooting it back at him. But, and not to argue or brag about it, it's just the point of know what you're talking about and know the environment of the creature that you're designing. And just because you don't relate to it doesn't mean that it makes it right for you just to shovel it to the side. So, 3 or 4 different conversations could come out of that really quick, and decent ones at that. I love things like this, fantasy and science fiction, to come across as, proven in science that they are plausible, because we don't know what's out there. We don't know what's out there. But if you're drawing this guy, I highly suggest that you do not draw a swamp ape or a skunk ape, which is a dark-haired wet creature out of Florida, presumably, because like I said, I've never seen one myself. But if you're drawing comic books and you want to make successful comics, think about the region of where it comes from and the animal that are up there. You know, the mountain goat that come out of Canada are really, really cool. The elk that come out of there, their fur is really, really textured and bright and clean. And with this character coming out of the same area, why wouldn't he be reminiscent of that kind of anatomy or evolutionary change where the animal represents that? I mean, this character is just phenomenal as far as that goes. But that's a pet peeve of mine, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to draw this character, is because of the fact that so many people, I'll see so many great artists just draw him and trash him up because they'll make him look like like I said, like a vampire. It's almost like a vampire ape kind of thing. And it's, why do that when you could make such a beautiful creature out of it and tell the story and make him represent the original envisionment of what Byrne and a couple of the other artists that have really, really put in on him to make him the masterpiece that he is. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not going on a evangelistic rant or anything like that, because, you know, you believe what you want to believe, and that's fine. I'm all for that. But, you know, just don't come at me saying, you know, I'm a heathen because I draw comic books. You're going to get shot down left and right. Just understand that. And that young man found out the hard way as a fan, a would-be fan of mine, and then came up to shoot me some business, and he got it right back. It's just one of those things. But as far as Alpha Flight goes, I love those characters. Puck happens to be a personal favorite of mine. And I've had some really good conversations with some great people today about these characters. This guy is really underrated because, you know, this is one of the rare characters in the Marvel Universe that actually beat the Hulk. And a lot of people don't get that. So how cool is that, right? This is one of the actual characters pre-1989 that could walk in and hammer the Hulk and put him on the ground. For one, he stands about 2 foot taller than the Hulk. For two, is his strength doesn't resonate from anger. His strength resonates from pure muscle fiber. It's just, he's dead weight. He is just massive, massive dead weight muscle. And he overpowers the Hulk every time he confronts him. I've never seen, now don't hold me to this, because I've never seen to this point in my knowledge that he was ever beaten by the Hulk. A lot of people mistake him for the Wendigo, and it is not the same creature. The Wendigo is almost a giant werewolf, okay? It's a totally different creature than the Sasquatch, especially in the Marvel Universe, so don't get that mixed up. The white Wendigo that you see Wolverine fight in the classic story on the covers where he first confronted the Hulk in Canada is not the same character. Sasquatch was a scientist that did genetic research to discover how primitive man was connected to the missing link, and then ended up activating this gene and becoming this character. So just understand that's where he came from. And this is supposed to be, in that storyline, it's actually supposed to prove that the origin of modern human man is an offshoot of the same thread that caused the Sasquatch. So they're not ape-like. They are a more feral type of human rather than being ape. So, but that, again, that's according to the Marvel mythos, not science. But, you know, we'll never know until we catch one or see one in person. But, you know, as far as an experienced, semi-experienced, I'll say I'm not as good as my some of my relatives, but that actually stay out there like every weekend kind of thing. But my experience in the woodlands, I'm going to tell you flat out, if this guy does exist, I don't want to be meeting up with him. You know, that's not somebody, that's not a bear you want to cuddle up with. It's not a teddy. Uh, but yeah, it's just one of those things. When I did this and posted it, when I did the layout and posted it, I got attacked right off the bat by, you know, an evangelical type of personality. And I was just like, really, man, you want to come at me with that? I mean, I know who I am and what I believe, and I condone everyone the freedom of whatever they believe. It's just, don't bring it at me and tell me I'm wrong because I believe one way versus what you believe. And especially with something cheesy as, you know, religion versus comics, that's stupid. I'm sorry. I'm not one to really snap at people, but that is a dumb approach. I mean, if that's your foundation and you got to come at, you know, that's like the people in the 40s and 50s that made the censorship, that wanted to say that, you know, comic books were corrupting youth. No, they were teaching them to read. What the heck are you talking about? I'm sorry, but I've been reading comics my entire life, and I'll tell you hands down, if I'm reading a comic book, the last thing I'm doing is getting it in trouble because I'm reading a comic book. So, you know, and like I said, not going on a tirade or anything. It's just, it's funny, and it goes hand in hand and hand in hand. So, you know, and once you get addicted to comics, you got to be very careful because you'll spend the next 10 years just sitting on your butt. You got to still remember to get out and work out some. But, you know, neither here nor there. And what I'm going to do here is, because his eyes are actually black, I'm not going to black them out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and color them and make them a dark brown. So I'm just going to leave them open like this right now so that you can see the eyeballs. But I'm going to put them into where they have a brown sheen to them, and then I'll put the white highlight spots and stuff on them when I color it, because I don't want to mess up this character by overshadowing everything and making it all run together and his eyes cut up into these shadows. Okay? So I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is pop his lip up so we can see that he has chompers in the top, chompers in the bottom, and got this nice little short Hulk, Ben Grimm type of nose going on, and has a really, really, really intense look. Nice flared nostril, make him just grimacing as all get out. And I'm going to put in another little divide right here in this cheek to make it look like the muscle right connecting up to the top of that nostril. That crease right there is coming out. But like I said, I don't want to line him up too much because then it'll cut away from the beauty of the fur, which I am saying that this time. I really dig this character, and I don't want to muddy up the water because he's got so much graceful detail in the way his hair looks anyway. So I'm going to come in and define this a little bit, and that's where we're at with it. I'm going to put this right up here just to define the hair just a little, because I want it to come across as batches, almost like natural layers or segments. And I don't want to go as far as to say a dreadlock type thing, but I know how dreadlocks are made, and that's just, you know, you got to take care of dreadlocks, man. That is a hard process to mat that up and make that work. And I got a buddy of mine that was from the UK back when I was in school. He had those, and he had long blonde wiry hair because he was English, and it cracked me up because he would work so hard to keep his dreads intact, and he had to, you know, take such good care of them. But this is not that effect, okay? This is long, thick locks of hair, and it's going to be segmented that way, okay? This is not going to be braids or it's not even going to be a heavy matted finish either. Like I said, I'm making this very graceful because this character is one of my favorites, and I want to give him the due diligence that he deserves. Due diligence, thank you very much. I know that word didn't kind of translate because I stuttered through it. I was moving my cough drop around, and I know I just torched that. I can't too talk, man. I can use the big words. So, as you guys can tell, it's been one of those days. But I've been up since 2 a.m. and been hammering out artwork and been sorting through colorist. And if any of you guys are my friends online that are watching this right now, or fans of mine that are on the page watching this, I am looking for colorist right now for some shared work. I've been interviewing some starter guys and, bringing on a lot of new artists to help them train. And then I've been looking for a couple of guys as well, but no luck yet. No luck yet. I'm hoping to I got about 20 candidates that I'm going to be interviewing tonight and tomorrow. And I'm hoping to get a couple of guys out of there to get these 3 books off the ground so that I don't have to color them and I can work on producing full time. That would be phenomenal. That way I can get the freelance projects I have off the table and get you guys some books that, everybody's been begging me for to actually get out. Since I hear all the time, it's like, you said this week. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's not that I'm not doing the work, guys. I'm hammered with multiple titles, and I've been kicking up so many pages today. Just for an example, I got up, like I said, I got up at 2 a.m. this morning and started hammering stuff out. And by 11 o'clock this morning, I had 4 projects finished and almost 10 full pages of comic art. And I mean, from the ground up, it was insane. I shouldn't have done it that hard. I'm going to sleep like a rock tonight, and I don't sleep much. So it's just been that kind of day, because tomorrow when I hire these guys, I want to get on these books and get my webcomic and everything else out the door, and my 3 titles as well, and get these guys on point to where we're doing books every day and can bring titles out to you guys. So Firestorm is about to take off big time, and I've got, like I said, I've got like 20 candidates that I'm going to be talking to. I've filtered a couple of them out already. Not to give anybody's name out or anything, but one particular said that he was a graduate of the Kubert School, and his art clearly says otherwise. And when I called and verified with the student directory for employment promotions, they didn't know who he was. So tip for the day, if you're submitting out work, don't lie, because it'll bust you in the butt real quick. Couple of phone calls and you're verified or denied. Don't do that. So yeah, you can get validated really, really quick, and you can also get busted. So, if you don't go to the Kubert School, don't say you worked with them or studied under them. And that goes for their internet packages as well. I've done a couple of those over the years, and they do not certify you as a graduate of the Kubert School. They will give you great feedback on your work and great standards to go by, but do not lie and say that you're a graduate. Say you took the course, yes. Say you went to through the course on the process, yes. But you're a graduate of the school physically, like the rest of the students that actually pay all of the money and the dues and the action to go there. Please don't do that, because that's a lie. So with that said, we are hammering this guy out. I just got private message, man, you're on point today. Yeah, I'm trying. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to rip at anybody or anything like that. It's just I'm pointing it out. I mean, if it is what it is, then own up and do it. Don't discredit the guys that do it. I mean, it's like, it's not as drastic because there's not as much risk as, like you saying you're a police officer, misrepresenting yourself, or you misrepresenting yourself as a military serviceman or woman. There's a lot more to it than that, to go that way. But please don't misrepresent yourself as a graduate of something you're not, because like I said, one phone call will ruin you. And if you, you know, if you lie to me on Jump Street, we're going to have a problem, because then I can't deal with you because I can't trust you. So, you know, and that happens with everybody. So don't do that. But as far as this guy goes, he's particularly two-toned. Okay, there is there's two things going on here. There's the head color, which goes down into his shoulder and crosses, and and it goes back here into the side. It goes back across his ribs and his back. But there's also this yellowish, orangish color that goes into his face and down here onto his chest, his ribs, and his abdomen, and his arms right here on his biceps. The reason you get the two-tone is that's a natural fur camouflage, okay? But it's also a natural fur-colored outfit for the comic book. That's the reason he got colored that way. There's an interesting pattern to him. So be sure that this texture around here in these places that are darker brown, you can put in the shadows and things like that. Like right up underneath here, I'll separate that hair just a little to define it a little more. And then I'm going to want to put in a shadow right here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because of the fact that this is the dark brown hair right here that goes along this edge, and it allows for that in that shadow. Okay, but I wouldn't want to do that on this stuff that's more that orangey yellow look, because what will end up happening is it'll wash it out, or it'll overwork it, one or the other, and then we will be in a pickle, as it were. So let's not do that. But when you're shading fur, be sure and go crazy with it a little bit. You can cut back and forth and all that. But I know a lot of guys, they'll say, don't do that. And then you come in and do the fur points. All right? Just do the texturing just like this on the end and feather it out to where it looks like it's building up for that fur. And then you have, you know, bam, a shadow. So just think about that. Now, in this one case, what I'm going to do here is, because this hair is overhanging the lighter color, this makes the one exception. Just right up here with his beard and shoulders and hair, that's the other exception, okay? Because you wouldn't want a shadow like this down here where his abdomen fully shows versus where the hair hangs over and shadows. You can shadow underneath that longer stuff like this and cut in sharp little shadows and be done with it. But just don't bring it way down here like a hard shadow all the way down into it. Just kind of accent it to make it pop a little bit, and then go under just off the point just a little bit. Either way, just go to one side and point it just a little bit. And not everyone has to have it. See, like that one doesn't have it. You know, not everyone will have it. Just give a little accent like that where it looks like it's shadowing just a little bit for the hair. And you, like I said, you don't want to do every little piece because it'll make it look funky. Because not every piece reflects that way. Because if it's turned, you'll have one going this way, then you'll have one going that way. And if it's going that way, it doesn't shadow the same way as it going this way. So I hope that makes sense. Because like right here on his beard, I can put a divide right there, and that'll still look good because the hair on that side looks like it's sticking up and out, where this one's just a little further back, and you give it just a little more subtle shadow. Just to define the gaps in the hair just a little bit. That helps, and it pops it up a lot. Like this right here, there would be a shadow right here because this goes up over the face. This goes down under. There would be just a little bit of a shadow right here. So see how that works? And it gives that layered dimension, right? And then because the main light's coming down from over here, we go on this side and give it just a little shadow break right here in the middle, to where it still has that awkward dim light or negative light over here, and it's got the main light right there, and just boom, you got whiskers hanging off his face. It's that simple. And so many people just don't do that. I highly recommend doing it. And like this one, it's down under. This one would be down under just a little. This one would be just right at the curve of the jaw, to where it looks like it's hanging on to it. You know, it's those subtle things like that. Now this one right here, I'm going to do something funky. I said I wasn't going to black out anything major, but I'm going to do this just to show the the difference in the vibrancy between the beard and the hair on his head. Okay, that's the reason for that. I'm going to put a little undershadow on this eyebrow here too, because it's going to show, but I want to dim it down just a little and show that cut for that undershadow for where I'll color it, because I want it to show off that look as well. So we've got a curve here, and that one would be dark, and that one would be light. Now it's going to pop it off and just make it look like he's really looking at you, you know. So let's go in here and black out this jaw. Get between the old teethers and leave that fang sticking up. Leave that fang and that fang. Make that a nice hard line so we can see the clean lip. Done deal. All right. I know I went into a lot of detail there. I hope you guys got some tips out of this. We have for tomorrow got a great one coming up. Electra, going to be awesome. Electra is going to be the character for the Friday character card. Be sure and be here tomorrow. If you're not here live for it and putting your like by one of the emoticons, you got to click a like, and you got to, in the video, you don't have to like it as a post. I'm not asking for, jammed likes that way. What I'm asking for is go on, hit the emoticon, let me know you're here and live. That way I can see it with your little face popping up, and post in the comments the word Electra. If you do that tomorrow during the live, I will put you in the drawing for the full 11x17 page of the custom Electra drawing that I will do for you with no problem. Now this evening, I'm finishing up the Black Panther 11x17 for Jason Kimball, last week's winner. And I've discussed that with him. He had a couple of things that he wanted me to do with it. And I took a little more time and did a bigger piece than the original 8.5x11 that I promised. I am going to do the full 11x17. I'm going to bring that on and show you guys. I'm at least going to do part of it live so that you can see it tonight or in the morning, first thing. And that way you guys can see that and go from there as well. And like I said, thanks for participating with this. Thanks for hearing me out with my rambles. And I dig you guys so much. Thank you for appearing and showing up and supporting this. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.